You may have heard that Venus has just entered Taurus, and while that might sound like just another celestial update, something deeper is unfolding, something that's quietly reshaping how you feel, love, and connect. There's a reason you've been more reflective lately, more sensitive to what feels real versus what feels forced. Venus isn't just the planet of love. She rules beauty, pleasure, and the very way we experience harmony in our lives. And now, she's come home. Taurus is Venus's sacred space. It's where her essence is grounded, nourished, and made tangible. When Venus moves through Taurus, there's a collective shift in the way we seek comfort and security. The world may feel slower, softer, or for some, more silent. If you've been feeling alone, emotionally raw, or even quietly detached from others, this transit is likely why. Not because something's wrong with you, but because something inside you is realigning. Venus in Taurus doesn't ask us to chase love. She asks us to become it, to return to ourselves, to sit with our desires, our discomforts, and the things we've been ignoring. This isn't about surface-level attraction or fleeting passion. This is heart work. This is soul work. And sometimes that means pulling away from noise and false connections so you can hear the truth in your own heartbeat. You might find yourself craving simplicity, authentic conversations, nourishing food, touch that means something. You might also notice what no longer satisfies you, the small talk, the casual, the inauthentic. And that contrast, it can feel isolating. But here's the beauty. Isolation during a Venus in Taurus cycle is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's space being made for something real to arrive. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming rooted. Venus is showing you what it means to be emotionally safe, to be sensually awake, and to recognize love not just in others, but in the still moments, the quiet rooms, the breath between thoughts. This part of the journey asks for gentleness, with yourself and with others. It's okay if you don't have all the answers yet. You're not supposed to. This is the season of tending to the soil, not rushing the bloom. Venus in Taurus brings the invitation to slow down, not because you're falling behind, but because your heart finally has the chance to catch up. Let this be a reminder, every time your soul whispers for softness, it's not weakness, it's alignment. You are returning to yourself. And that is the most powerful homecoming there is. What Venus in Taurus means for the heart. To understand what Venus in Taurus means for your heart, you have to feel it, not just analyze it. This transit isn't intellectual. It doesn't speak in logic or strategy. It speaks through sensation, through that quiet knowing in your chest, that ache you can't quite name, that longing for something softer, safer, more real. Venus in Taurus is here to bring you back to what your heart truly values. Not what the world says you should want. Not what you've settled for out of habit or fear. But what your spirit deeply, deeply craves. And that craving, it's not loud. It's not chaotic. It's gentle, steady, and patient. Taurus doesn't rush. And Venus, when in Taurus, asks, what feels like peace to you? What feels like home in another person's presence? What feels like truth on your own? You may find yourself more sensitive to beauty right now, not just the kind you see, but the kind you feel. A sunset might hit you differently. A memory might wash over you more tenderly. The sound of a friend's voice might bring tears to your eyes for no reason at all. That's Venus in Taurus working through you. She's refining your emotional palette, tuning you back to love that feels safe, love that feels steady, not love that burns and disappears. And yes, this process might stir up sadness. You might look at a relationship and realize it doesn't feed you anymore. You might notice that some connections were built on noise, not nourishment. This realization can hurt, but it's also healing. Because for once, you're not looking at love through the lens of lack or performance. You're looking through the eyes of someone who knows their worth. Taurus teaches us that love is not a chase. It's a presence. It's how you show up, for yourself first and then for others. So if you've been feeling the urge to pull away from what's shallow or chaotic, it's not withdrawal, it's wisdom. Your heart is calling you toward a grounded connection, toward stillness, toward love that feels like exhale. This moment in the sky is about building something lasting inside your heart. Not fantasy, not idealism, but something tactile, slow, and sacred. Something that stays. And while that might mean saying goodbye to what no longer fits, it also means saying yes to what finally feels true. So let yourself feel. Let the ache speak. Let the silence guide you. Venus in Taurus is not here to confuse you. It's here to return you to what you've always known deep down, that real love doesn't need to be earned. It only needs to be remembered. Why you might be feeling alone. So why then do you feel alone? This is the question so many are quietly asking themselves right now. Not because you're unloved. Not because you're forgotten. But because Venus in Taurus is clearing space. Sacred, necessary space. And sometimes that clearing can feel like loneliness. But in truth, it's a kind of emotional detox. Your heart is releasing noise so it can finally hear its own rhythm again. We often associate connection with constant closeness, texts, updates, attention. But Venus in Taurus invites a deeper form of connection, one that isn't frantic or forced. It's about presence, not performance. And when you're in a world that constantly asks you to be on, choosing to be still can feel like isolation. It's not. It's intimacy with yourself. During this time, you may find that people don't understand the shift you're in. You might not be showing up the way you used to. You're not entertaining chaos. You're not explaining your every move. You're not chasing things that drain you. And yes, this may make you feel like you're losing people. But maybe you're not losing them. Maybe you're just finally seeing them clearly. Maybe they were only aligned with the version of you that was tired, overgiving, disconnected from your truth. This loneliness you feel, it's not emptiness. It's clarity. It's the beginning of choosing relationships that nourish, not deplete. Of valuing quiet moments just as much as loud laughter. Of letting love arrive naturally, without needing to beg for it. There is a mourning that comes with this kind of evolution. You may grieve the way things were, even if they never really felt right. You may miss people who never truly saw you. You may feel waves of nostalgia for an older version of you. The one who settled, who hoped, who kept waiting for someone else to show up differently. But that grief is a good sign. It means you're growing. It means you're not numb. It means your heart is awakening to its own wisdom. And with awakening often comes a quiet stretch of space, what feels like loneliness, but is actually a soft return to yourself. Trust this space. Don't rush to fill it. Don't mask it with distractions or quick fixes. Let it show you what your soul needs now. Because the moment you stop fearing this solitude is the moment you realize you were never truly alone. Your heart was just asking for your attention. Reclaiming your heart space. So what does it really mean to reclaim your heart space? It means returning to the part of you that knows what it needs. Before the noise, before the conditioning, before the heartbreaks taught you to settle for less. Venus in Taurus invites you to stop outsourcing your emotional safety and come home to the truth within you. That your heart is not a burden. It's not too much. It's not wrong for wanting softness, steadiness, or something deeper. But to reclaim your heart space, you have to slow down. You have to give yourself permission to feel, to really feel. And that's not always easy in a world that romanticizes distraction and celebrates detachment. We're taught to keep moving, to keep achieving, to numb ourselves with busyness. But Taurus energy moves in the opposite direction. It asks you to pause, to breathe, to notice what's been aching beneath the surface. You might find yourself drawn to simplicity right now, quiet mornings, handwritten thoughts, long walks without a destination. You might crave less conversation and more connection, less stimulation and more stillness. These aren't random impulses. These are sacred messages. Your heart is guiding you back to itself. This is a time to honor what feels nourishing and to gently release what feels draining. You don't need to explain why you no longer feel lit up by certain friendships or why you're pulling away from surface-level dynamics. Your energy is recalibrating, aligning with something more authentic. Something that resonates deeper than words. This might mean setting up new boundaries, even with people you love. It might mean being honest about what you need, not just what others expect. It might mean sitting in uncomfortable truths instead of sugarcoating them. But through this discomfort, you reclaim power. You stop waiting to be chosen, and start choosing yourself. And when you do, you create space for something beautiful. Intimacy with life, with nature, with your body, with your emotions, with people who don't just tolerate your truth, but treasure it. You begin to realize that real love doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It doesn't make you feel small. Real love is patient, present, peaceful, and it begins with you. So let this be your permission slip to slow down, to feel without fixing, to listen without judgment. Reclaiming your heart space isn't a dramatic act. It's a quiet, powerful decision you make every day, to honor what you feel, trust what you know, and no longer abandon yourself to be loved by others. The role of self-worth and stability. One of the biggest lessons Venus in Taurus brings to the surface is this: your worth is not up for negotiation. This is the season where self-worth becomes the foundation of everything: your relationships, your choices, your boundaries, your desires. Taurus energy doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't plead for love, it holds love. It doesn't beg to be chosen because it already knows what is meant for me will come, and what isn't will fall away with grace. But getting to that place requires honesty, brutal, tender honesty, with yourself. Where have you been compromising your peace just to keep the connection? Where have you been settling, shrinking, sacrificing, all for the illusion of being loved? These are not light questions, but they are necessary ones. Venus in Taurus shines a soft, steady light on the places within us that still believe we have to earn love, that we have to perform for affection, that we have to abandon ourselves just to be accepted. And the truth is, many of us learned that kind of love in childhood. We learned to be convenient, to be easy, to be digestible. But now your heart is remembering. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to need more. And yes, stepping into your worth may mean losing things. Relationships, roles, routines that were built on your smaller self may start to fall away. That's not failure. That's alignment. When you begin to truly value yourself, anything that doesn't match that vibration will naturally drift out of your field. And though that can feel lonely, it's actually a sign that your energy is becoming clearer, stronger, more whole. Self-worth isn't about becoming harder, colder, or more independent. It's about becoming more honest, more rooted, more unshakable in your understanding that you do not have to beg for what is sacred. You do not have to tolerate emotional crumbs. You do not have to be everything to someone just to feel like something. This Venus in Taurus moment is inviting you to rebuild your internal landscape, to recognize that the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat your own body, the way you choose who stays and who goes, that is your foundation now. You are the soil. You are the vessel. And from this place, you will begin to attract relationships that mirror your wholeness, not your wounds. So ask yourself gently, what am I no longer available for? And then listen, not with fear, but with faith. Because every time you honor your worth, you send out a frequency. And the right people, the ones who see you clearly, love you fully, and meet you honestly, will hear it. Healing through the body. One of the most beautiful yet overlooked aspects of Venus in Taurus is this: healing doesn't always happen in your mind. It happens through your body. Taurus is an earth sign, ruled by the senses. It's deeply connected to touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. Not in a superficial way, but in a sacred way. It reminds us that the body isn't just a vessel we live in. It's a temple, a mirror, a storyteller. And during this transit, your body might start speaking louder than your thoughts. You may feel tension in places you didn't notice before. You might cry at a song that touches something buried. You might crave certain foods, textures, even environments that feel more nourishing than usual. That's not you being sensitive. That's your nervous system asking to be held. That's your heart healing in physical form. This is the time to come back into your senses, to let them lead you gently back to the present moment. Whether it's the comfort of a weighted blanket, the scent of fresh lavender, the warmth of tea in your hands, or the sound of your own breath in a quiet room, all of these are invitations to soften, to reconnect, to ground. There is medicine in slowing down enough to notice how you feel in your skin. Venus in Taurus asks, when was the last time you touched yourself with love? When was the last time you let pleasure be sacred, not shameful? When was the last time you listened to your body instead of overriding it with guilt or pressure? In a world that pushes constant productivity, choosing pleasure can feel radical. But this isn't about indulgence without meaning. It's about presence. About listening. About honoring the signals your body has been sending, maybe for years, asking for a moment of care, a breath of ease, a return to softness. So if you feel tired, rest. If you feel heavy, move gently. If you feel disconnected, come back through your breath, your feet on the floor, your hand over your heart. Healing through the body isn't linear. It's cyclical. It's subtle. But it's also sacred. Let yourself be held by textures, by ritual, by rhythm. Light a candle not because you have to, but because it changes the way you enter the evening. Play music not just for background noise, but to feel something move inside you. Eat slowly. Speak kindly. Touch consciously. These are not luxuries. These are forms of remembering. Forms of love. Because sometimes, the most profound healing isn't about solving anything. It's about feeling safe enough to feel. And in this Venus in Taurus moment, that's exactly what your body is asking for, to be felt, to be honored, and most of all, to be trusted again. What this transit teaches about boundaries. As this Venus in Taurus energy deepens, another truth rises gently to the surface. You can't fully open your heart until you've learned how to protect it. This is where boundaries come in. Not walls, not shutdowns, but real, living boundaries that honor both your tenderness and your truth. And this season is all about learning the difference. Taurus doesn't like chaos. It seeks stability. It craves emotional environments that feel safe, consistent, and real. So if you've been feeling a quiet urge to pull back, to say no, to create space from energy that feels unpredictable or draining, that's not you being distant. That's you reclaiming your peace. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred containers that say, this is how I love myself while loving you. Without them, your heart stays in survival mode, always managing, always adjusting, always second-guessing its right to exist fully. And Venus in Taurus doesn't want you to survive your relationships. She wants you to live inside them, to feel safe in them. You might notice during this time that certain conversations become harder to tolerate. Passive aggression, manipulation, people-pleasing. You may feel more sensitive to how others handle your no, your silence, your absence. These reactions are revealing. They're not just about them, they're about you learning where your energy has been leaking and where your spirit has been compromising to keep the peace. But here's the truth. Peace that costs your self-respect isn't peace. It's a performance. And Venus in Taurus will not let you perform anymore. This energy gives you the strength to be firm without being cold, clear without being cruel. To say, I love you, but I need space. I hear you, but I won't abandon myself to keep you comfortable. I care, but not at the cost of my own nervous system. There is so much freedom in learning that boundaries aren't barriers to connection, they're the very thing that allows connection to deepen. When you no longer feel responsible for managing others' emotions, you free yourself to feel your own fully. When you no longer overextend to avoid guilt, you create room for relationships that thrive on mutual respect, not silent sacrifice. And yes, setting boundaries may feel awkward or even painful at first. You may fear being misunderstood or disliked. But ask yourself, would you rather be liked for a version of you that's constantly shrinking? Or loved for the whole truth of who you are? This moment in the sky is asking you to trust that your heart is worthy of protection, not just from others, but from the ways you forget yourself. And when you choose to honor that worth, you begin to create a life where love doesn't cost you your peace. It becomes part of it. Venus retrograde shadows, if applicable. Sometimes, in the middle of all this hard work, the past comes knocking. Quietly. Unexpectedly. And that's no accident, especially under Venus's influence. If Venus is retrograding or even just making powerful aspects during her time in Taurus, don't be surprised if old feelings resurface. Past lovers, old friends, long-forgotten wounds that show up in your body before they show up in your thoughts. This is part of the process. Venus doesn't just rule beauty and love, she rules memory. She brings the past into the present, not to torment you, but to reveal what's still unhealed. You might dream of someone you haven't thought about in years. You might hear a song and suddenly feel a wave of emotion you thought you'd outgrown. You might revisit a moment, a conversation, a goodbye, and realize you never really grieved it. That's not regression. That's a revelation. Venus in Taurus slows time down just enough for you to feel what you skipped over. The heartbreak you never sat with. The betrayal you brushed past. The longing you buried because you thought it was too much. This is the soul's way of clearing space. Not for nostalgia. Not to reopen wounds. But to finally release what has been quietly shaping your emotional reality. And it's not always about other people. Sometimes, what resurfaces is your own younger self. The part of you who believed you had to be perfect to be loved. The version of you who kept showing up for someone who never saw your worth. These ghosts don't return to haunt, they return to be held. To be understood. To be finally told, you didn't deserve that. You did your best. And it's safe now to let it go. So, if you find yourself crying and you don't know why, if you're overwhelmed by a wave of memory that catches you off guard, don't push it away. Don't try to explain it. Let it move. Let it breathe. Let it pass through. Because this is the final layer of healing, not fixing but feeling. Not analyzing but accepting. Venus is inviting you to touch the soft places you've ignored for too long. To offer yourself the closure no one else gave you. And to realize that healing doesn't always look like letting go. It often looks like it's finally letting in the truth. You are not weak for revisiting what you thought you were over. You are not broken for still feeling. You are human. And this is the work of Venus, to soften the armor, to open the heart, and to remind you, love never really leaves. It transforms. It teaches. And when you're ready, it becomes something new. Astrological guidance for each zodiac sign. Every zodiac sign experiences the energy of Venus in Taurus in its own unique way. While the core themes of grounding, self-worth, and heart healing remain the same, how this transit plays out in your life depends on where Taurus touches your personal chart. For some, it might highlight your relationships, asking you to slow down and evaluate what truly nourishes your soul. For others, it could stir your finances or your sense of personal value, encouraging you to create stability from the inside out. And for many, it's about your deepest values, the things that matter so profoundly that you'll no longer settle for less. If you're a fiery Aries, Venus in Taurus may invite you to practice patience and savor the slower rhythms of love. For sensitive Cancer, this transit can open a tender door to emotional security and physical comfort. For analytical Virgo, it's a chance to feel beyond the mind, trusting the body's wisdom. Regardless of your sign, this time calls you to align with what feels deeply authentic. It encourages you to slow the pace, feel the textures of your life, and honor your heart's rhythms instead of forcing the dance. Venus in Taurus is less about dramatic shifts and more about steady transformation. It's the difference between rushing a flame and tending a slow-burning fire that warms you from within. It asks you to build from the ground up, to nourish your soil before planting seeds, to cultivate patience as your love matures. If you've been feeling unsettled or disconnected, remember that this is part of the natural cycle. The stars invite you to listen deeply to your own needs, to honor your boundaries, and to choose relationships and environments that support your true self. No matter your sign, the message is clear. This is your time to root yourself in love that lasts, not just on the surface, but deep inside your heart. Closing, you're not alone in this shift. As Venus continues her journey through Taurus, remember this. You are not alone, even if your heart feels quiet right now. This season is an invitation to slow down, to come home to yourself, and to honor the soft, steady rhythm of your own heart. It's a gentle but powerful reminder that love, real love, is patient. It is grounded. It is kind. You don't have to rush to fix what feels broken or force connection where it doesn't exist. Instead, give yourself permission to feel everything deeply, the loneliness, the longing, the tenderness, and trust that these feelings are part of your healing journey. With Venus in Taurus, love becomes less about chasing and more about being. Being present with yourself, being gentle with your wounds, being open to the quiet beauty that surrounds you. This is your time to nurture your heart space with care and compassion, to create boundaries that protect your peace, to reconnect with your body, your senses, and your inner wisdom. And above all, to remember that you are worthy of love exactly as you are, whole, imperfect, and deeply enough. So when the loneliness creeps in, don't run from it. Welcome it. Let it show you what your heart truly needs. Because in that space, love is waiting, not somewhere out there, but quietly growing inside you. This Venus in Taurus cycle is not just about change, it's about transformation. A slow, beautiful unfolding of your heart's deepest truth. And when you allow yourself to be patient with this process, you'll discover a love that lasts, not just with others, but most importantly, with yourself. You are not alone. You are deeply loved. And your heart is exactly where it needs to be.